Hello, and good morning, everyone. I am Faraz Naqvi, currently leading the Iran program at Institute of Regional Studies, Islamabad. And today we are gonna discuss on the very pertinent issue that is related to the growing collaboration between Iran and Russia. As you all might have known, that in August 2023, Russia has extended the invitation to Iran for its CSTO military exercises to be held in Belarus. And it was the first time that such a invitation was extended to Iran to join or to join as an observer state for the official military exercises of the Russian-led CSTO Collective Security Treaty Organization. Just to give you all the background, that CSTO is basically the alternative of Russia with regards to its competition with the NATO. So while the NATO is a US-led military alliances comprising of majority of Western European states, CSTO is a Russian-led military alliances comprising of some of the Eastern European as well as Central Asian states. So in August 2023, the military exercises were held in Belarus, in which Iran participated as an observer state. Given the growing and long military collaboration between Russia and Iran, it is very important to analyze that how such a strategic partnership is going to transform into a direct military collaboration. We have seen that Iran emerged as the only state that have provided the drone technology and drone weapons to Russia in its war against Ukraine. We have also seen that Iran emerged as a central state for the Russian international north-south transit corridor that basically developed as an alternative trade route for Russian goods extending from St. Petersburg all the way to India, Mumbai. And we have also seen that Russian-Iranian partnership was consolidated in the wake of Syrian civil war, in which both Russia and Iran basically backed the Bashar al-Assad government against the US, the Gulf states, as well as the Western states. And apparently they have proved victorious since Bashar al-Assad is still held to the power. So given all this background, we are joined today by our very eminent guest all the way from Moscow, Mr. Gleb Makarevich. Thank you so much, Mr. Gleb, for joining us and sparing time to attend and participate as a speaker for our event. In our event, let me give you a brief background and introduction of our guest, Mr. Gleb. So Mr. Gleb is a senior researcher at Center for Asian Pacific Studies at Russian Academy of International Relations. He has done his bachelor's and master's from Moscow State Institute of International Relations. He has been widely interviewed by the international and national news channels as well as print media. His basically major areas of interest and research are strategic culture, military alliances, West Asia, South Asia, Russo-Iranian relations, Russo-Pakistani relations, Russo-Indian relations. So with this background of our speaker as well as our today's topic, I'll hand over the floor to Mr. Gleb to basically elaborate us the significance of this invitation extended by Russia to Iran in joining the CSTO exercises. Over to you, Mr. Gleb.
Thank you. Host disabled. So could you please give me an opportunity to share my screen? I wanted to show you some PowerPoint presentation.
Sure, Mr. Gleb, you can share.
Okay. Now I'm in F5 now. Just a sec. Slideshow, right? So good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning in my case, and good afternoon in yours, as I could suggest. Thank you for having me here, for invitation to discuss such a thought-provoking issue. And I should say that our perspectives on these phenomena do differ, but I think that it will be even more interesting for me to share my perspective from Moscow on this, and to get your feedback, and finally enjoy fruitful discussion after my talk. So actually, if you asked me to cover the prospect of Iran joining the CSTO, my answer would be rather short. I think that Iran is highly unlikely to join the organization. However, the list of received queries give us an opportunity to discuss wider range of issues. I mean, encompassing uh, the specifics of CSTO, Russia-Iran ties, and its impact on regional dynamics. I think that, and I hope that my talk will boost the discussion during the Q&A session. So the outline of my talk is as follows. Firstly, we will consider a Russian perspective on the CSTO, the way it emerged, it works, its failures and successes, and we'll speculate on some prospects. Secondly, we will look at Russia-Iran relations, what objectives the parties pursue. Is everything all right? I see in the screen. I hope so. I do hope so, actually. Sorry, dear colleagues.
I guess you have just pressed the button incidentally.
I see.
Now it's visible.
So the second point, Russian-Iran bilateral cooperation. Objectives, ways to achieve them, and what factors could further improve the ties. And finally, we will cover regional dynamics, how Russian engagement with Iran affects CSTO development, and what could be the role of other powers in these collaboration, namely the US, China, India, and of course Pakistan. So I'm afraid of putting the wrong button again. So I'm positive that you are aware of CSTO specifics. However, I think that we should emphasize some features concerning its past, rationale, areas of operation, and sub-regional particularities. First of all, we should mention that the organization we know today was established in 2002, but it tracks back to 1992 when post-Soviet military heft had to be managed by multiple countries. It needed common management, and despite this fact, goals of the Tashkent Treaty of 1992 were quite vague and implied no obligations for signatories. At the same time, post-Soviet countries saw a number of conflicts and civil wars during the 90s. You could mention two wars in Georgia concerning South Ossetia, Abkhazia, civil war in Tajikistan, Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, of course, Prидnestrovia conflict, I mean, Tiraspol stuff. I think you know it. And that is why they wanted to improve this organization, to give it a new framework, and give it instruments to invoke security management, military and security management. That is why Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Russia established the CSTO in 2002. And I should say that self-representation of the CSTO is of special interest. I should argue here with the phrase, it is not a military alliance, and its official definition, self-definition says that CSTO is a new type of multifunctional collective security organization, which means that on the one hand, it is not a military alliance like NATO or the Warsaw Pact. So, the Warsaw Pact, of course. And on the other hand, that is not just a security venue like OSCE or SEO. It is not a format for talks and negotiations and some, political interconnection. It implies that the parties considered should have some military heft and they should be ready to use it. But actually, such an ad hoc structure implied that the organization had many ad hoc agendas. We should distinguish three vectors. The first one deals with the Western vector. It concerned NATO enlargement, concerns of Belarus, Russia, their collective security as a union state, and you could assume that enlargement of NATO is not of great interest for Kyrgyzstan or Tajikistan, right? It is of great interest for Russia and Belarus. Another vector, South Caucasus. This dimension deals with the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. And I should clarify here that it does not deal with the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, because Armenia has been the only country that advocated for Nagorno-Karabakh special status. Other CSTO countries accepted territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, and they did not claim Nagorno-Karabakh for Armenia. That is why the CSTO was geared to deal with the possible escalation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. They're the Euro territory and those countries, not Nagorno-Karabakh Republic or Republic of Artsakh, as Armenians called it. And finally, the third vector encompasses issues in Central Asia, namely rise of extremism, Islamic radicalism, and of course, terrorism in general. The thing is, most Central Asian republics are secular in essence. The leadership is secular as well, and they rise of extremism based on Islamic fundamentalism, and that is the new vector. So, what institutional features do we have? First of all, the organization's effectiveness depends on Russian military heft and its readiness to be involved in conflict management. Secondly, CSTO participants, in fact, do not share common concerns. Russia is the only power that cares for security in the post-Soviet area as a whole, because Russia considers post-Soviet area to be a sphere of its privileged, interest. And but in fact, Kyrgyzstan's and Belarus's interests do not really overlap. Thirdly, such low degree of interconnectedness implied the CSTO inflexibility, and therefore it leads to Russia's involvement in crisis management on bilateral basis, trilateral, or through other formats. Let's recall, for example, Minsk process concerning Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, or bilateral and trilateral negotiations during Kyrgyzstan-Tajikistan conflict. Hopefully, these features do explain CSTO failures and successes. Let us take just two examples, Armenia and Kazakhstan. As I have already said, we do not have to discuss Nagorno-Karabakh. Russia tried to manage this conflict through other formats. A real failure of the CSTO, as I see it, occurred in September 2022, when Azerbaijan attacked Armenian territory, not Nagorno-Karabakh, but Armenia. Yerevan asked for help. It applied for help to the CSTO Secretariat and got no support. Why has it happened so? The thing is, Russia at that time was fully occupied in Ukraine. It concentrated its forces in Ukraine and got no resources to assist Armenia by any measure. Other CSTO countries do not enjoy much military clout and resources, and were not, in fact, as we see it, interested in assisting Armenia to defend itself. So, but we've got second example, Kazakhstan, and I think that you know the event I'm talking about. It was January 2022 when Kazakhstan applied for assistance amid the rise of extremism in major cities, and it got support. It got support primarily from Russia, but other CSTO participants sent their troops as well. And what a coincidence! At that time, Russia got resources, and we got a problem that bothers all the Central Asian republics. I mean, the rise of extremism and massive demonstrations. That is why it was a success, right? To sum it up, these two features we've been discussing, Russian extremely large amount of power and extremely high amount of power in comparison to other signatories, right? And its readiness to use it at the time, as well as degree of interest by other countries, determines the CSTO flexibility and effectiveness. That is why most security issues in post-Soviet area are handled bilaterally, trilaterally, or through alternative formats. Now, my suggestion is to come back to our initial issues and ask yourself whether Iran could find its place in handling post-Soviet conflict management. Whether Tehran is interested in resolution of Kyrgyzstan-Tajikistan conflict. Of course, it is. It is interested in this resolution, but whether it is ready to involve in it, involve in this management. Before I share my personal view, let me cover Russia-Iran bilateral ties. So, we should mention that Russia-Iran relations have seen many ups and downs. And I mean, not only 19th century wars or controversial, communication during World War II, but even some developments nearly a decade ago, when Russia rejected to sell S-4 systems, because that time Iran faced sanctions from the UN Security Council. But today, Russia and Iran share views on most global issues, global and regional. Politically, both parties pursue the establishment of multiple world order and stand against the dominance of the West. What concerns security issues, they cooperate in the Middle East, especially Syria, and have consultations on other urgent topics. Take, for example, Palestine issue. I mean, Israel-Palestine conflict, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf security equilibrium, and so on and so forth. Economically, they advocate for further development of the INSTC, regional trade, and investment partnership. Finally, recently boosted defense cooperation make Russia and Iran genuine strategic partners for years to come. You know that Russia collaborated with Iran in acquiring new UAVs, and it's localized. There's UAVs in Russian territory on the Russian territory, and now they are known as Iran 2. And we are not sure what military assistance and what military technical support Iran got from Russia, but we have enough information to speculate that this kind of cooperation will last long for the further decades, one or two. I'm not sure, but I think so. But let us return again to the initial issue. Is there any place for Iran in the CSTO? Personally, I do not think so. We should recall that it is not a military alliance. The CSTO is rather a collective security institution for crisis management in post-Soviet space. We have covered two examples and could cover more during Q&A if you wish so, and observed that the CSTO success depends on two factors: Russia's resources and other members' interest in dealing with the specific crisis. Would Iran regard some conflict in CSTO as one affecting its national interests? I highly doubt that. Highly doubt that. You could object here and refer to its tough relations with Azerbaijan and mounting ties with Armenia. But Tehran and Yerevan do not need CSTO so as to coordinate their actions. Same approach is likely to prevail with other CSTO countries, including Russia. Thus, I see no prospect of Iran joining the CSTO, but I'm ready to hear your arguments and discuss them during the Q&A. Nevertheless, I promised to show you my perspective on broader regional dynamics. In fact, I think that Russia-Iran bilateral relations are not likely to be the main determinant of the Middle East politics, but they are certain to affect other actor strategies. For instance, Russia-Iran close approach to Syria and their pro-Palestinian position to some extent make Israel think twice before acting before its adversaries. Whatever, I mean, Palestine, Iran itself, and it made, in fact, our Israel experts say that Russia's close ties with Iran made Israel think twice before sending weapons to Ukraine, and they did not, make such a decision. We'll, see the dynamics in future, but so far, Israel has not supported Ukraine by any, substantive measure. Moreover, Russia-Iran ties affects American strategy. The US has declared a decade ago, I should say, that they want to leave the Middle East and uh, and concentrate on sorry, yeah, yeah, and concentrate on their so-called Indo-Pacific. 60% of their military power should be concentrated there. But these, rise of Russia in the Middle East and its close ties with Iran prevent the US from leaving the prevent the US from leaving the region, and I think that they will not be ready to leave it in during the ongoing decade. To be frank, and that is of great concern for Washington because they need more power to contain China. So, what concerns current rapprochement, or whatever you call it, between Iran and the Gulf states? I'm not so optimistic about that. I think that this process has just started, and risk of facing setbacks is quite high. But Russia is willing to boost its relations with the Gulf states, of course. And I think that its close ties with Iran make Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar pursue closer ties with Russia because of its close ties with Iran. So, if you proceed to China, I suggest that Beijing is highly unlikely to enter regional security equilibrium. Today's Chinese leadership is not interested in the Middle East security equilibrium. I'm not a China expert, but I got consultations with my colleagues, and they stipulate that China puts a premium on East Asia and Southeast Asia. And you could, you could guess that it deals with the Taiwan and South China Sea, respectively. Chinese are not even, our experts say, are not even really interested in further exploration of the Indian Ocean. They are likely to concentrate on these two spheres, and they are highly unlikely to, to be military to increase their military presence in the Middle East. So, but economically, of course, they are they want to increase their relations, and we have been observing mounting ties between China and Iran, and that is, the process I try to keep an eye on. So, and I think that same approach concerns India, because we have seen launch of the I2U2 format and even a new infrastructure plan through the whole Middle East. What I'm really skeptical of. We could discuss it later, but I'm really skeptical of these Trans-Arabian infrastructure road. But Indian military development in the region is not at sight. I wanted to conclude my talk with sharing my perspective on Pakistan's options in light of discussed issues. We have seen that neither Russia nor Iran are guided by blockish mindset, and they do not tend to implement some kind of zero-sum strategy. Both countries are eager to deal with their respective issues of interest by the means they find appropriate. And I think that Pakistan should follow this logic while interacting with the regional powers and think beyond old cliches about balance of powers and other neorealism and geopolitical stuff. And I think that there is such an opportunity. I mentioned that I keep an eye on China-Iran relations right now, and I think that today that Pakistan could join the INSTC and Belt and Road Initiative synthesis, which is likely to emerge after China's involvement in Iran. And I think no wonder Russia and Iran would welcome any party involved in the INSTC. Islamabad could take advantage of this opportunity and join the initiative, leaving behind such labels, all labels as pro-Indian and anti-Pakistan project. To sum it up, I'm not sure whether Iran's membership in the CSTO could alter regional dynamics, but Pakistan's Pakistan joining the NSTC definitely would. Thank you for your attention and ready to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gleb, for a quite comprehensive presentation on this topic. You have pointed out that Iran is very unlikely to join the CST organization, but it would definitely gonna speed up or pace up its collaboration with CSTO member states on a bilateral mechanism. And you have also highlighted some of the shortcomings of CSTO by providing the case studies of Armenia as well as Kazakhstan. You have also pointed out to the fact that how Russo-Iranian collaboration is quite vital for their shared interests spanning from politics, economy, and security. You have also pointed out the recommendations for Pakistan as a major, major and prospective state to join international north-south transit corridor. Now I would like to open up the floor for Q&A session, but before that I would like to ask you that you have mentioned that CSTO is not specifically a security oriented organization. It is not like the Western led or US led NATO that you have mentioned in the beginning of your presentation, but rather it is a multifunctional organization that, as you have mentioned. So my question is, do you see that given the scope of CSTO, which is as of now very limited, spanning to just few of the global actors or few of the regional states, the chances of SCO, Shanghai Corporation Organization, in overshadowing the role of CSTO is quite visible. Do you think that such a role would be taken up more efficiently by SCO that would overshadow the role of CSTO as an independent regional organization?
Thank you for your question. I should clarify that my take was that the CSTO is not a military alliance like NATO or the Warsaw Pact. And of course, the CSTO is an organization that primarily deals with security issues. Let me read out official definition one more time. Yeah, a new type of multifunctional collective security organization. So it is this organization definitely deals with security, and it has you know, it has the framework to deal with security issues. Its signatories have their right to ask for assistance, ask for military help, and that is why it is, of course, security cooperation, security organization. And in comparison to Shanghai Cooperation Organization, uh, I should say that paradoxically, despite all the shortcomings of the CSTO, the SCO is not likely to overshadow the CSTO, because the SCO does not imply such measures, does not imply such instruments as military assistance. And I should say that um, that hardly could I, you know, uh, hardly could I expect China to ask for military assistance from India, or India asking for military assistance from Pakistan. That is why I think that in uh, what concerns hard security, right? Uh, the STO is not likely to overshadow the CSTO. But the STO is rather um, um, is rather effective platform for discussions, and for discussions with major powers such as China, India, Pakistan, and Central Asian countries, and Iran, of course. And Central Asian countries would be more interested to discuss security issues with those countries via, you know, such format as their SCO, but militarily, this SCO is unlikely to overshadow the CSTO.
Well taken, Mr. Gleb. There is a question from my colleague from ISSI, Mr. Taimur. He said that given the CSTO inability in the case of Armenia, do you think that it became a factor for Armenia to join or to move towards the Western led bloc? This was the question number one, and the question number two, which he asked, is that given your recommendation for Pakistan to join international north-south transit corridor. But the very purpose of INSTC is to bypass Pakistan. And given India's desire to block Pakistan's membership to BRICS, do you think that such sort of arrangement for Pakistan to join INSTC would be feasible given the strong reservations and apprehensions, and given the strong restrictive measures lobbied by India for Pakistan's membership?
Mm-hmm. So, firstly, let us discuss Armenia issue. We have seen Armenian disappointment over the CSTO, and they are right that the organization did not manage to save them from Azerbaijan's aggression in September 2022. I should emphasize that. We are talking about September 2022. But Armenia's inclinations towards the West do not concern that escalation. It concerns the loss of Nagorno-Karabakh. And these moves, I'm not sure whether they will in fact move towards the West and will be given much help and assistance they need now. I mean, militarily, economically, politically, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure about that. And I would say that I highly doubt that. But there is one specific, detail. Nicole Pashinyan lost the 2020 war, right? And he hardly saved his power. He won next elections, but he wanted to make old elites, old Karabakh elites, namely Serge Sargsyan and Robert, forgot his surname. So, I mean, post-Soviet Karabakh elites. He wanted them to be guilty for that, right? For that defeat. And now, I mean, half a year ago, he started realizing that he's likely to lose the whole Nagorno-Karabakh, to lose the whole Nagorno-Karabakh region, right? And his I think that his bet was to make Russia guilty of this loss, the loss that would be that seemed to be certain, and he understood that he could not make all the elites guilty for defeat of the whole Karabakh, right? But he needed someone bigger. That is why he tries to show that the Armenian inability to contain Azerbaijan, to win the war in Nagorno-Karabakh, is of Russian guilty. I'm not sure whether he will succeed, because the West now concentrates on Ukraine and of course the Middle East, and has no additional resources to invest in Armenia so as to cure their losses. But I think that we should differentiate these scenarios. Collaboration with the CSTO, unfortunate one, I should admit. The CSTO did not help Armenia. It was a failure. I highlighted it during the talk. And today's disagreements between Russia and Armenia, that is another story. I think that this story derives from domestic affairs of Armenia. Let us proceed to the INSTC. Actually, I'm not sure whether Indians stand against Pakistan joining the INSTC. Of course, they do not support Pakistan's joining BRICS. That's for sure. And this is what we know best. But I think that what concerns the INSTC, we should talk about interests of Russia and Iran, because you've got the Macron cost, and you've got the infrastructure to join the Iranian infrastructure and further Russian. I know that Russian politicians, Russian decision makers are waiting for new powers to involve, and regional decision makers, regional, I mean Russian regions, Dagestan namely, are waiting for new economic counterparts. And I don't think that Indian reservations about Pakistan joining the INSTC could prevent Russian decision makers from welcoming Pakistan. So that's, I think, would be my answer.
Okay, Mr. Gleb, there is another question from Mr. Bilal. He said that there have been talks of a Su-35 fighter jets deal between Russia and Iran, but it has not been materialized yet. Given that, considering these crucial circumstances and geopolitical environment and the strategic interdependence of Russia and Iran on each other, if such a deal would fail or would not be implemented, what consequences does it entail for the Russo-Iranian relations and for the wider collaboration in the Middle East or Eurasian region?
So, um, a joke comes to my mind that uh, it's not the first time, and that will be fine. So I mentioned failure to supply S-400 system, right? But and we could overcome that. Of course, failure to implement such a deal would negatively affect Russia-Iranian ties. I'm not sure that it would affect in any kind broader regional dynamics. But I think that given the circumstances and given the Russian desire to develop UAV infrastructure and Iranian experience in this field, highly esteemed experience, I don't think that this deal is likely to fail. I think that both countries are likely to implement all the deals they seek, and they are going to be interconnected indeed, in the following decade.
But Mr. Gleb, you see that the S-400 missile system deal is still a limbo between Russia and Iran. But Russia has provided S-400 missile system to Turkey, who is not a partner as per se, but sort of Russia has working relations with Turkey owing to the Syrian situation and the Mediterranean and Black Sea situation. But Russia has provided S-400 missile system to Turkey. But given, as you had also mentioned, that Russia and Iran are strategic partners and they have signed a deal as well for the years to come, but Russia has not provided the same weapon system to its quote unquote strategic partner. So how do you view this Russian policy? Is Russia is trying to balance between Iran and the other Middle Eastern ties so as to stay relevant or to have kept its strategic autonomy in the region to maximize the interest? Could we say that it is sort of a hedging policy of Russia vis-a-vis the Middle Eastern state, including Iran, Turkey, and the GCC?
So I will not, you know, I will not consider it in such a deep perspective because a failure to provide Iran with the S-400 missile system happened 10 years ago, right after the imposition of the UN Security Council on Iran, imposition of sanctions, right? And Russia has always tried to follow international rules. I mean, rules of international law, right? And did not want to break them owing to one contract, even with such a high cost. And its deal with Turkey is another story, and it was provided on business as usual basis. I think so, but I'm not really aware of Today's particulars about S-400 missile system in Iran and whether such negotiations going on or not. But I'm not sure that today they're going on because those systems are needed in Ukraine for Russia. So, and you see, we've got two stories, right? We've got a story a decade ago, and we got a story when Russia needs these systems right now. And in between, we've got a deal with Turkey, which happened in the middle of dance, right? Around 5 or 6 years ago. So I think that Russian inability to provide Iran with the S-400 missile systems could be explained by these specific circumstances on the ground in a certain historic period. Then UN Security Council sanctions now need to use them in Ukraine.
Very well elaborated, Mr. Gleb. Just two last question, and I would ask them simultaneously. Number one, you see that while Russia has extended the invitation to Iran to participate as an observer state in CSTO exercises, Russia has also extended the invitation to Saudi Arabia as well. Given the recent rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia mediated by China, do you see that Russia is basically eyeing to have similar sort of role in the wake of US withdrawal from the larger Middle Eastern region so as to balance its position in the Middle East and to emerge as an alternative power alongside China in the Middle East? That is question number one. The question number two is, since you have mentioned that given the circumstances, given the geopolitical scenario, CSTO was unable to help Armenia, and there are some other instances as well. We have also seen that one of the Central Asian state, Uzbekistan, was the former CSTO member, but now that state has withdrawn its membership. So, given Central Asia, as you have mentioned, being the post Soviet influential region for the Russia, but Russia was unable to amass the support for its CSTO membership from the post-Soviet states as well. So, if there are so much shortcomings in CSTO policies, why is it so much important? Couldn't it be that Russia could actively participate and try to strengthen the SCO as an alternative to CSTO, given its wider scope and given its wider audience and given its larger stage, which encompasses Central Asia, South Asia, Middle East, as well as South Caucasus as well? So, what are your takes on both of these questions?
So thank you for your questions. Russia invited both Iran and Saudi Arabia. I would not, regard these moves as a part of strategy to remove some geopolitical adversaries in the Middle East or somewhere else, right? I think that Russia is interested in both Iran and Saudi Arabia. Why Russia is interested in Iran, I think we have covered. And Saudi Arabia, in good ties with Saudi Arabia, entails many advantages, starting from OPEC, right? And investment, investment cooperation in general. I think that today's posture of Russia is today's posture of Russia in the Middle East seems to be enough for Russian leadership. We've got military presence in Syria, naval and air bases, right? Two bases, one aerial, another naval. We've got good relations with Iran, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. We've got, let's say, stable relations with Israel, um, but they have been deteriorating for last month because Russia supported Palestinian cause. So we've got excellent relations with Egypt. Russia is not a Soviet Union anymore. It has no resources to be involved in any region in the world, right? It does not seek replacing the US and dominating in some regions. I think that Russia tries to, diversify its ties and collaborate with all the regions of its interest. Of course, Saudi Arabia is an interesting counterpart, right? Iran as well. All of the states mentioned are quite interesting. And I think that Russian leadership today understands that some kind of messianism, some kind of, you know, seeking dominance is highly expensive. And we see it, and the US does exemplify this. We see that they have not enough resources to dominate uh, throughout the whole world, and they are always nervous about their posture in this or that region, and that is not that's not what Russia is seeking. I think that it is likely to cooperate with all the partners, along with China, or bilaterally or trilaterally. And I think that we are just enjoying the moment when we could be some kind of fun sitters, observing how the US dominance is shrinking because they took such a heavy burden. And think over, and we should think over, not repeating such a mistake. What concerns the CSTO, I should confess that this organization has always been a mystery for me myself. I have seen many discussions with my colleagues in Russia and abroad about its flexibility and effectiveness. We've seen more failures than successes of this organization. And I should say that during the previous decade, all the experts just, just mentioned the CSTO. They just mentioned it, and even, we're kidding while speaking about that. But then 2022 happened. I mean, January 2022, when Kazakhstan did need its support, and they asked for this help, and the organization was very helpful. Later, we've seen another setback and another failure, but even the fact that Armenia applied for assistance means that such mechanism is needed in post-Soviet space, and Russian military resources are needed in post-Soviet states. I told in the very beginning that the Tashkent Treaty was signed so as to commonly manage post-Soviet military heritage, right? And even even such examples of failure, but that had entailed asking for assistance, right? They show us that such organization is needed, Russian military resources are needed, security guarantees are needed. That is why there is no need to, get rid of organization that theoretically could be invoked. That is why I think that Russia is still important, and although its members could say that this organization is of little importance for them, when an hour comes, actually they recall it. And I hope, first of all, I hope that they will not face a situation when such help is needed, right? But if it is, I hope that CSTO will prove its effectiveness and flexibility in some future. Let's say so.
It was indeed a comprehensive deliberation, Mr. Gleb. You have also touched upon that why CSTO is still relevant, and now you have seen. You have also mentioned that most of the states that think that it is redundant are now seeking the help because of various political and economic, as well as security issues as well. Here we are short of time. In fact, we have all passed our time limit. I would deeply want to thank you for joining us all the way from Moscow. It was indeed a pleasure. And people have very limited knowledge about CSTO, so you have quite comprehensively elaborated and discussed the aspects of CSTO, the objectives of CSTO, and the essence of CSTO in the modern world. You have also quite rightly touched upon that while Russia is not seeking the global domination because of the limited resources. Such sort of arrangement that was present in the Soviet era is not quite possible. So Russia is basically trying to not exceed the limit, to not get over exhausted, that we have seen in the case of US. In at least in my humble opinion, that the US has been over exaggerated, and it has been over exhausted in the military means, getting
Mhm.
itself into the Ukraine, getting itself into the South China Sea, in Persian Gulf, now in the Gaza Strip as well, Gaza Palestine issue as well, Gaza Israel issue as well. So, and it is the main reason why the US power has been shrunk to the level that we have been at least in the theoretical terms in academic circles, we have been talking about the multilateral organization as well as multipolar world. So once again, thank you so much, Mr. Gleb, and it was indeed a pleasure to have you. And hopefully, in the future, we would definitely gonna remain in touch with you, and would surely invite you for some other event related to CSTO, Russia, Iran, and the Middle East, the areas in which you are indeed an expert. Thank you so much, and thank you so much on the behalf of my team and on the behalf of my institute as well. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure for me as well. Thank you for the invitation and fruitful discussion. Bye. See you.
Bye. Take care. Take care, Mr.
Thank you.